welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and today I'm talking about things that made me really happy in the third quarter of 2023. This is actually going to be a bit of a combo video because I had some 5-star predictions for the third quarter of 2023, and I don't really have any predictions for the fourth quarter. So when I get to the bookish section of this video, I am going to talk about the books that I thought would be 5 stars and whether or not they were, in addition to sharing my top books of the quarter. But unlike most videos on this channel, this video is not just about books. It's not only about my favorite books. It's about my favorite foods of the quarter, about my favorite songs that I've been listening to, video games I've been playing, like the whole kit and caboodle. So I do have timestamps in the description of this video, so that way you can skip around if you're interested in some things and not in other things. I think that I normally start out with food and drinks, but I guess it doesn't really matter which order I start, but I'm starting with food and drinks. A lot of times I will share recipes or particular beverages that I'm enjoying. I don't have a whole lot new to add on those fronts, especially with like different drinks and stuff, because even though it's now fall and this quarter included the first month of fall of September, I still I'm enjoying the same stuff that I did last fall. So nothing's like super revolutionary with that, except I did get a new cookbook that I am obsessed with. I've cooked so many recipes from this cookbook, some of them several times, and that is Korean Cooking Favorites. And this is actually from the creator of the food blog Beyond Kimchi, which is one of my favorite Korean food blogs. I've made so many recipes from her website before, and so this cookbook is just a phenomenal. Like, we have made so many things from here. Some of them are a little more familiar, things like japchae or dakdortang or things like that. But one favorite thing that we've been making is this crispy pork recipe that you can make with eggplant, but there's a recipe in the back for like spinach with different pastes on it, and I've been using the spinach with that instead of the eggplant. Honestly, can't even tell you how many times I've made that recipe. I love it so much. And we love the jjajangmyeon recipe that's in here as well. So that is a huge one. I also found an air fryer recipe for pork belly in the air fryer, and it is incredible, and it is so stupidly easy to make, and it's so dang good. So I'll have both the cookbook and that air fryer pork belly recipe linked down below. Then we can move into some entertainment things. Normally I have TV shows that I've been watching, but I haven't finished any TV shows. If you participated in K-Tropathon in the month of July, you may have watched some episodes of Hospital Playlist with us, because that was our watch along. And my husband and I have finished the first season of that show, and out of everyone that was watching it, we may actually have been the only ones who finished the first season. But we have not yet finished the second season. We're kind of slowly working our way through it. We watched it at a much more accelerated pace than normal in the month of July, just because of K-Tropathon. Normally we'll watch an episode of a show a week, sometimes more than one, but the episodes of Hospital Playlist are super long, so I don't think we've ever doubled up and watched 2 in one sitting, because each of them are like an hour and a half long. But we're enjoying that, but I haven't finished it, so I can't really give you a final verdict on it. In terms of music, and in terms of K-pop, if you know me, you know that Claire and I really love K-pop, my daughter and I. We had so many releases from artists we really loved and came to love over the summer, and I think that was really kicked off with New Jeans' new release, which I think was called Get Up, and we love pretty much every song on that album. It's so good. I think my song of the summer was Super Shy by New Jeans. Like, oh my gosh, such a vibe and such a bop. I love it so much. And then after that, we got a solo release from V from BTS. And to be honest, the only solo song so far that I have really liked from any of the solo things released from BTS is Jin's song, The Astronaut. That's like the only one. Everything else I've just been kind of like meh about, or downright hated, which is so sad for me, because I really do love BTS, and BTS was like my gateway into K-pop. But V did not disappoint. Like, his music is like so aesthetically pleasing, especially for the fall. If you're listening to rainy days, like the music at the beginning and stuff sounds exactly like a lot of the fall ambient rooms that I like to put on in the morning when it's chilly and it's still dark outside. I'll actually link a couple of my favorite ambient rooms down below as well, because I love ambient rooms in the fall and the winter, and they really help, I think, with seasonal depression, because they kind of give like this more cozy vibe as opposed to it just feeling like it's so dark and dreary. And I think that really like elevates my mood, and it's lovely to have on when we do school as well. And so I'll link some of those, but I just feel like his vibe in his entire solo release really feels like that, and so it has a really nice cozy feel for me. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you my favorite new release, and that's Eric Nam's newest album. Like, my goodness, like I discovered Eric Nam earlier this year, and he's been around for forever, so it's not like he's a new up and coming artist or anything like that. He's actually my age. Most K-pop stars are younger, but Eric Nam was literally born the same year that I was, so we're like the exact same age. So that's kind of fun. And actually he sings his songs entirely in English because he was raised in Georgia and then moved to Seoul later. So he does speak fluent Korean, but his music is entirely in English, at least his more recent stuff is. But you guys, House on a Hill is such an incredible song. Like, the whole song is about thinking you'll be happy when you have this, when you've reached success, when you have these things. And it's like, what if being happy isn't actually what I thought it was? And what if more isn't enough? And like, it's such a good song. It's so deep and I love it so much. But my favorite song on the album is for sure Sink or Swim. Like, musically, it is 10,000% my jam right now, but it did come out in September, so I can include it then because I started loving it then, but I've been obsessed with it for about a month. And it's such a great song, and I feel like it feels like marriage vows because it's talking so much about, you know, when you met and then you fall in love, but then you decide that you're going to dive in. Sink or swim. There's one line that says, blue skies or tidal waves, I'm with you either way. And I just love it. It's so romantic and so sweet, and it really reminds me of my husband and I, where we've had years where everything's been wonderful. It's like top of the world. And this year my husband and I have both had surgeries this year and had difficult health years. And so it's just like, that's life, that's marriage, that's commitment, that's real love. Moving on to my last section of entertainment, and that would be video games. So guys, I've been sleeping on Stardew Valley. Like, I didn't know. Like, it's been a while since a video game really consumed me that much. I guess Tears of the Kingdom did, but like a cozy game. It's been a while since I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like all I want to do is play this game. And it's so good. I was kind of, I'll admit, off put by the art style because I don't love pixel art style. But the more I played it, the more I loved it. And there are so many fun details in it that I just love. Like, and I can't believe that it was one person that put it out and came up with all these storylines and all these relationships that you can build. And there's just so many funny things. You can go in people's houses and explore things. This is a farming sim, in case you didn't know, in case you've been under a rock as well, like I have with Stardew Valley. It's a farming sim game. So it's kind of like you're unhappy with your corporate life in the city and your grandfather passes away and leaves you a farm. You decide you're going to go fix it up and start farming, but you're on the outskirts of this town and you get to know all these people. And so yes, there are farming elements, but I think the relationship elements and the storyline was what made it super, super fun for me. So if you haven't tried it and you like cozy games or farming games, you would probably really like Stardew Valley as well. The other game that also is not a new game, but I just found, well, I know I've known about it for a little while, but I just didn't know that I needed it in my life, is Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion. This is like the funniest game. My older sister told me earlier this year about this game and she said it's so funny and I needed to try it, and I just love it. So in this game, you are a turnip and the mayor of the town is an onion, and he said, hey, you've been committing tax evasion, so unless you want to get put in jail, you have to do all these little odd jobs for me. But obviously, like, the government's like super corrupt of all these vegetables, and it's so funny. It's so tongue-in-cheek and it knows exactly what it's doing. Like, there's one point where you go to these carrots and they're like, oh, do you like all my boxes stacked right here? It's not to keep you within the level so you don't just wander off. And it's got all kinds of stuff like that. Or like, you can enter this area once you've beat the game, whatever that means. And it's like so tongue-in-cheek, and you collect like random hats as you beat different things, or you do different side quests for characters, and those are all funny. But overall, you're doing all these little chores, these things to help Mayor Onion, who is actually corrupt, and you know that he's getting these things. You're like, what is he gonna do with these? This is not good, but it's very like dark humor, but it's so funny. Claire and I really enjoy playing it, and it's just really really, really hilarious. So if you're looking for a shorter game, I think gameplay it's for sure under 10 hours, but I want to say it's more in like the 5 to 8 range. If you're looking for a shorter game that's just really fun and entertaining, it's going to make you laugh, but it does have combat things and puzzles and things you have to figure out as well. You probably really love this game. I really, really recommend it. It's pretty inexpensive, but it does go on sale, and I didn't buy it until it went on sale because when it's a shorter game, I don't really want to pay more than $10 for it, because it's like, if I'm not going to put that much time into it, then I don't want to spend a bunch of money. So it goes on sale pretty often, I think, but we finally picked it up. I had had my eye on it for a while, my wish list, and we picked it up, and it's just a lot of fun. They are doing a sequel, I think. I don't know when it's coming out, and I can't remember what it's called, but I think it might have something to do with like a bank robbery though. It's really, really fun. So last up, the moment you guys have all probably been waiting for. You're probably here for the books, so this is the book section. So I had 4 books that I put on my 5-star predictions for the third quarter, and those books were Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, and then also The Goblin Emperor, who I can't remember who wrote that one, but I actually didn't get to that one, unfortunately, so that is not gonna be on this list of favorites for the quarter. And then The Name of the Rose, I did a whole reading vlog on that, so I'll link that in case you're interested in my thoughts on that one. But suffice it to say that it was a very mixed bag for me. For sure did not get 5 stars, even though at the beginning I was really loving it and was really hopeful that it was going to continue to be wonderful. It unfortunately was not. So I think I gave it like 3 stars. So it was because there were some elements that were fantastic and some elements that were really, really not fantastic. And so I think I kind of rated it somewhere in the middle. Mansfield Park was really close to 5 stars. It wasn't quite perfect for me because I did feel the length, and there were some elements to it that just kind of confused me as to why we're supposed to be rooting for characters that I just didn't understand some of the things. That's a whole thing. I can't really talk about it without being spoilery, and I'm not going to do that. So yeah, that one I loved. I think I probably gave it 4.5 stars. So maybe you could round up and say it was 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. It was far from my least favorite Jane Austen, but I don't think it's my favorite one either. And then lastly off that list was Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I did give 5 stars to. I loved this book. I actually chose it in September. I've been doing a project where I choose a book that was suggested to me by one of my patrons, and then I do a reading vlog experience for it and just go through all my spoilery thoughts and all those kinds of things. And Strange and Norrell was the first book that I did that with, and it was so fabulous. Like, it is, oh, perfect for fall. So in case you don't know what Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is about, it is about these 2 magicians who are in England, and they want to revive the practice of magic. It takes place during the Napoleonic Wars, so it's kind of in alternate history or fantastical history, if you will, and it explores a lot of like very deep good versus evil, greed, desire for power, and the deeper themes and discussion that were had there is what pushed me over into 5-star territory. But what I really loved about it also is that it's very atmospheric. There's just this sense of unease, and you feel unsettled, and you know something is going on that's not good, but it's not really until you hit the 3rd section of the book that you really start seeing like the darkness, and then it gets really, really dark. But it feels very Dickensian in its vibe and its language in the time period that it is set in addition to its length. And then it has like little vignette pictures, which are usually found in like Penguin Classics, and footnotes about magical things that aren't even real, and they look like scholarly footnotes. It's so fun. I really, really enjoyed it. It's kind of a polarizing book. A lot of people think it's way too long, way too wordy. I disagree. I really liked it. There's only one part that kind of lagged for me, and that was the scene of Waterloo. But any book that has Waterloo in it, for some reason I always struggle with that battle, no matter how people treat it in a book. So there's that. So I'm going to share a couple other favorite books from the quarter, because unfortunately most of the books I predicted were not favorite 5-star books, but I have a couple other books that were. These aren't in any particular order because I don't know if I could rank them. My enjoyment level was pretty equal, but they're fairly different, although 3 of the 4 are fantasies. and none of them are classics. Like, who even am I? So the other fantasy, I read this with my in-person book club, is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. This is the first in the Lady Trent series. I think there's 5 books in the series, and it's incredible. So it takes place, I don't know if it's supposed to be like Victorian era or more like Regency era. It doesn't say, because it does take place in a fantastical world. So it's not England, but it feels like England and Europe as a whole. But there's maps of like where this takes place, and there's this woman, and she really loves science, and she really wants to study dragons, but that's really not socially acceptable in that day and age. And she ends up marrying a man who encourages this pursuit, and they go on a trip and an adventure to study dragons, and it was so amazing. Like, I did not anticipate how much I would love it. This is another book that has illustrations. It's supposed to be like her memoirs, and so she has illustrations of dragons she studied, and the dragons are not, I mean, it is fantastical because they're not real creatures, but they're not like dragons in some fantasy books where you can communicate with them, you can talk with them, or you can ride them, or these kinds of things. It's not like that. They're just like another animal in this world. And so it feels more scientific kind of in that way, and it's very slow moving, but it is so well done, so well written. I just absolutely loved it so much, and I just got book 2 for my birthday from a friend, and so I can't wait to read book 2. Book 2 will be coming up probably after I finish the books that have come out for the Stormlight Archive, which brings me to my next book, and that's Oathbringer, which is book 3 of the Stormlight Archive. And I really can't say much about this because it is the 3rd book in a series, but this is my favorite one so far. And I'm absolutely shocked about that, because most people, this is one of their least favorites. This one or Rhythm of War, which is the 4th book. So I think part of the reason I loved Oathbringer so much is that I waited about 8 months in between Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, and as a result I spent a lot of Words of Radiance having that same lost feeling that I did in Way of Kings, because I didn't remember so much of it. Not so with Oathbringer. Oathbringer was perfect. I loved it so much. It still took me a long time to get through just because it's chunky. I think it's like 1,200 or 1,300 pages. A huge focus of this book is on Dalinar and his backstory, and based on other books I was thinking, do I like Kaladin best or do I like Dalinar best? I'm thinking maybe Dalinar, and then I read Oathbringer and I'm like, definitely Dalinar is my favorite character. The last book that is on this list is The Saturdays by Elizabeth Enright, and this was a Patreon group read in the month of August. We actually let my daughter join in the month of August because it was her birthday month. So she chose some books, and then my Patreon voted which book that we would read together and chat about together, and she got to join in on the Zoom call discussion, and The Saturdays was the book that won. We had read an Elizabeth Enright before. We had read Thimble Summer a couple of years ago and really liked that, but The Saturdays just absolutely topped that one, which is shocking because I loved Thimble Summer as well, but it is just so good. It's about these 4 siblings, and they live in New York City, and they're feeling really bored on a rainy Saturday afternoon, and they're like, I wish we could do this. I wish we had the money to do this. So what they decide to do is that every Saturday they will pool everyone's allowances together and then allow them, one person each week, to spend that money however they would like to go on whatever adventure they couldn't go on before. So like someone wants to go see a ballet show, someone wants to go do this or go that. There's different things that they want to be able to do, and so that's how they're spending their Saturdays, which is where the name of the book came from. And it is just such a great book. There's so much humor in it, and I feel like Elizabeth Enright captures childhood in such an accurate and special way, and I just really loved it. Like, there aren't words to tell you how much I loved it. It's so wholesome, it's so sweet, and I know that my dear friend Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, this is one of her favorite childhood books, and she's like, I'm not sure if it's just my nostalgia speaking, but like as an adult reading it for the first time, it was absolutely hands down a 5-star book for me. So it's not just her nostalgia speaking. And Claire and I have gone on to read book 2, The 4-Story Mistake, and we love that just as much. So this is a quartet that has 4 books in it, and I'm hoping that all 4 books are 5 stars. I've heard quite a few people say that book 3, which I think is called And Then There Were 5, is their favorite. So that is still to come for us, but we have absolutely loved both of the first 2 books, and so that's just really wonderful. And I'm really glad there's a middle grade, because it's actually been a while since there has been a middle grade in my top books of the quarter. Even though I have been continuing to read middle grade, I just haven't been enjoying a lot of the ones I've been reading as much, but this one was perfect. So those are my favorite books of the quarter, ones that actually ended up being 5 stars and were my favorite 5 stars out of all of the books that I read in the third quarter of 2023. And those are all my other favorite things too. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What is a favorite book that you have read in the third quarter? And what are some things that have been bringing you joy lately? Whether it's food, whether it's drinks, whether it's a video game, whether it's a TV show, like whatever it is that's giving you those cozy, warm, happy feelings, I would love to have you share with me in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.